Hey, what's up, everyone? First up, one of the biggest things that players were shouting about in the community was a weird behavior from the AI quarterbacks, where they would sometimes abandon open lanes and just run out of bounds like it was their only option. That wasn't what any of us wanted to see because when you're trying to scramble and make something happen, you want your QB to actually take advantage of space. That's been addressed in this update, and the AI has been corrected so that they behave in a much more logical and realistic way when the pocket breaks down. That's not all on the gameplay side. There have been some deep feels in franchise mode regarding how younger quarterbacks were progressing. Before this update, some of these QBs would wrap up a season and then randomly regress in their development. And because many people love building up star players over time, that was a pretty frustrating issue. The developers recognized this and fixed the underlying logic that caused that unintended regression. So now progression feels much more consistent and predictable and doesn't punish you just for putting in good games. Next up, let's talk about some of the visual and presentation problems that were lingering. There were reports on platforms like Switch 2 about replay glitches, moments where the replay would hitch or not play back properly, and that's been smoothed out. Plus, for anybody who's been hearing silence where there should have been music after the weekly recap sequence, that soundtrack issue has been restored, so the audio flows exactly how it's supposed to from one segment into the next. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The update is bringing in some fresh blood, with new X Factor and Superstar players adding more strategic variety and competitiveness into online, franchise, Superstar, and Ultimate Team modes. These aren't just simple stat bumps, they're meaningful ability assignments that can change how you call plays and build rosters. Christian Gonzalez, Drake May, Matt Stafford, and Trey McBride are among the new X Factor players being recognized with high-impact traits that can really swing games when they're activated at the right moment. Christian Gonzalez gets things like universal coverage and one step ahead, while Drake May picks up things like pro reads and fearless. Matt Stafford's additions really bolster veteran presence with traits like dots and long-range deadeye, and Trey McBride doesn't get left out either, with Yak 'em Up and Deep and Elite traits that can open up your tight end game. But the additions don't stop there. On the Superstar side, a bunch of players across different positions have picked up new abilities that reflect how they've actually been performing in real life. Giant Slime and Andrew Thomas has picked up Pass Protector and Threat Detector. Bears Phenom Caleb Williams gets Agile Extender and Gutsy Scrambler. Jaguars kicker Cam Little gains Zen Kicker, and Broncos Cortland Sutton picks up Mid-Out Elite and Short-Out Elite routes to help stretch defenses. Bills strong blocker Deion Dawkins gets FP and Run Protector. Cowboys George Pickens gets multiple elite receiver traits. Panthers JC Horn ends up with standout cornerback traits, and more. Of course, for every player that gets an upgrade, some do get removed from elite status based on performance or balance needs. Dexter Lawrence, Jaden Daniels, Joe Mixon, and Sauce Gardner have been pulled from the X Factor ranks. And a fairly long list of players like Aaron Jones, CJ Stroud, Chris Godwin, Justin Simmons, and others have been downgraded from superstar designations. These changes are all aimed at keeping the game feeling balanced and rewarding performance that matches what's been happening on the field this season. Now, what's cool about this type of update is that it doesn't just add abilities and fixes. It subtly reshapes how you approach matchups. For example, when a top cornerback loses an X Factor, that opens up opportunities for passing attacks, while a new superstar designation on a big run blocker or elite receiver can force defenses to adjust what they emphasize in coverage. It's almost like roster meta balance for your virtual league week after week. Another part of this update that people are noticing is the incremental approach to fixing issues that have plagued the game post-launch. Earlier patches addressed things like RPO exploit fixes where bubble screens could be manipulated in a way that wasn't intended, goal line kinks where ball carriers could momentarily freeze, and defensive alignments that just didn't feel authentic. This version doesn't go as broad on gameplay mechanics as some might expect, but it deepens the overall quality and experience, and continues the trend of fine-tuning the foundation so that future big updates can build on a stable base. It's also worth noting that this update launches alongside a set of new gear options for players who love cosmetic customization. EA has introduced things like the F7 Pro helmet and a selection of 9 new F7 Pro face masks, giving you more flexibility in how your players look on the field without sacrificing performance or anything like that. It's a small thing, but in a game where style and identity matter a ton to a lot of folks, those changes really do add some flavor. All in all, this is one of those patches where the cumulative effect of several smaller improvements actually feels bigger than the sum of its parts. There are meaningful gameplay refinements, important franchise mode logic tweaks, lineup and ability shifts that impact competitive and casual play, presentation fixes that make sure the game feels top to bottom polished, and even gear and cosmetic additions that let you express your own style in a league or online match. Whether you're grinding through franchise seasons, building up superstar careers, or battling it out in MUT, there's something in here that improves the experience. That's the breakdown of the latest Madden update that most players are talking about. If you've loaded in and seen the version number pop up when you booted up your console or PC, now you know exactly what got changed and what that means for your next game. Leave your thoughts on how the game is playing for you after this update. Some of these tweaks might surprise you once you're back on the field.